and welcome to In Focus. I am Rom Gayoso, your host. We're approaching WFSF's 25th World Conference in Paris, and it is our 50th anniversary celebration. In this special series of In Focus, we'll speak with several of the conference organizers and we'll learn what is in store for the conference. The theme is exploring liminalities, creating spaces for unlimited futures, and there's a lot to discuss there. So let's get going. Well, before I get started, let me say a few words about the show today. All righty. So this show is a result of a partnership between WFSF and yours truly, Futures Television. We're joining forces to advance sharing of information and knowledge of futures topics. Today, we discuss a very important topic, the conference's venue, and our host, the École des Ponts Business School in Paris. And for that, we have a very special guest, Martin Calnan. Well, without further ado, let's welcome Martin to the show. How are you doing today, Martin?
Very well, Rom. Thanks for having me.
How wonderful to see you, and how wonderful that you could take the time to speak with our audience. Well, let's get started here. I'd like for you to share your impressions. The WFSF was founded in Paris 50 years ago, and we are back for the 50th anniversary. So France carries an enormous significance for future studies. Are you excited to welcome WFSF in Paris?
Well, not only am I excited, I think it's an honor, really. And somehow, there's a certain circularity to it because the school, although we'll talk about it later, the engineering school was actually created almost 300 years ago. And it was created as a hub of knowledge. It was kind of the first think tank in many ways. It wasn't actually a school. It was the king who brought together the best thinkers from around the world. And that's what I feel we're doing here. The best thinkers to think us out of a situation that we've actually gotten ourselves stuck in, so to speak.
Well, that's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the work you do. You're the UNESCO chair in financial and anticipatory systems thinking. How can the financial system act as an agent of positive impact?
Well, the financial system is clearly the guardian of the temple when it comes to the definition of value. And if we don't question what we consider valuable, then we're just going to keep on creating and investing and furthering the current system. Needless to say, I think we've proven that we need to start thinking differently. And we need to step into this so-called liminality that we are dedicated the conference to in order to see what can we do differently? How can the financial system actually become an engine to change rather than what it is to a large extent today, resistance to change, actually. So that's really where we're going with this. And I'm happy to say that there are actually a few actors out there in that world, in that sector, who are beginning to move, I believe. So there's hope.
That's wonderful. Now let's talk a little bit about the École des Ponts Business School, our hosts for the 25th conference. Can you profile the school and its mission? What are you all about?
Sure. So we're a small business school. We're actually not that young because we were created a little over 30 years ago. And I think it's a beautiful story that, if you'll allow me, is worth being told.
Please.
This is a business school that belongs to an engineering school in France. Needless to say, it's a relatively male-dominated environment. And in 1987, when this school was created, it was even more so. And a woman who was not an engineer, who was not French, was able to convince the board of the school at the time that they needed to create not only a business school, but that business school should only have programs in English. This was in 1987 in France. The Berlin Wall was still there. This was revolutionary, so to speak. Those are our origins. And so to a certain extent, our mission is to try to carry forward that vision, that visionary aspect, that ability to really go beyond what seemed possible, what even seemed normal at the time, and to test new things, to really push the boundaries. And we've consciously remained small precisely because we believe that it's necessary for, in order to actually affect change. Yes, of course, volume and mass are important, but when you're talking about changing behaviors, really changing deeper patterns, then it's actually the connection and the deeper connection that is important. And so that's kind of in a nutshell who we are. We're this little business school that's really trying to shake things up, and to a certain extent, I think we're doing an okay job of it. And I think by hosting the WFSF conference here, being able to partake in this global thing, I think kind of illustrates that.
Yes, it is, and it's amazing to see that. Of course, WFSF is back in Paris, and Paris, not just Paris, but France, is particularly dear to all of the futurists because, of course, the French School of Future Studies, which is enormous. Well, so Les, are you excited about the conference? What are you expecting to see?
Well, I'm very excited because I think we've concocted a pretty cool program, um, bringing together really, well, like you were saying, so many strains of futures thinking. And that beauty of futures thinking is that it is so varied. It's not one. There's not one school, one way. We're really. It kind of embodies diversity. But we've tried to take it even a little step further. So I'm really expecting some surprises. There's going to be academic discussions. We're trying to bring in some corporates, of course, cultural differences, but not only that, also neuro differences and motor differences. Literally, we're going to start the conference with challenging ableism, with a beautiful keynote around disabling futures. So we're really trying to bring all this conversation around thinking differently, exploring liminalities, exploring things that we don't know, and I think that with doing this in France 50 years later, there's both the link to the past and maybe the runway to the future.
Certainly. Well, there's no, as there's an old German say, they say there is no future without a past, right? So it's good
Absolutely.
to think about, the past, but also to look forward into the future and the plurality of thoughts, the plentitude of futures. That's what we're all about. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this program. So let's take a walk into some of the web pages. So folks, I wanted just to remind you, just visit quickly the WFSF's landing page. So that's the World Future Studies Federation.org or WFSF.org, where you're going to find a lot of information about the federation, the activities it does, several of the resources, what's available to you free of charge, of course. Then you have the communications platform where you see Futures Television and what we do together to, well, along with WFSF, to promote future studies and futures literacy. Of course, I would love for you to consider becoming a member of WFSF and being part of the dialogue of the several futures. Next, if you click here on the conference's webpage, and I'm just going to take a shortcut and go straight into the conference's webpage for just a moment. And there we are. That's again the Future Studies Federation, and I'd love for you to just take a moment to partake in the information, and for you to register, just go back and click on the registration button. If you would like to remain in touch, just scroll down to the bottom of the page and hit subscribe. So you're going to get all the information about the conference in one place in your mailbox very conveniently. Okay, folks, so it's all the time we had for today. Well, Martin, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your perspectives about the conference.
Thank you very much, Rom.
Okay,
Looking forward to seeing you there, I hope.
yes. So, folks, don't forget the conference is live in Paris and it's also online. So, if you cannot come to Paris, make sure you register as an online participant so you can take advantage of all of the online program. And of course, if you're a student, there's special events. It's just for you student events inside of WFSF's 25th conference. Folks, it's time for us to start closing and for me to thank you. So thank you so very much for your time here today with Martin and with me to hear a little bit about Call the Ponce Business School and what's in store for the upcoming conference. So thank you so very much, and I hope to see you in Paris. See you next time.